The mud flew as she hit the ground again. "Get up, princess," the sergeant yelled. The other recruits laughed at the small woman struggling through training. They called her weak. They had no idea she was hiding a deadly secret that would change everything. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. The sun was just coming up when Sarah Chin stepped off the bus at Fort Benning. She carried a small bag and wore simple clothes, jeans and a t-shirt. Around her, big muscular men were getting off other buses. They looked like they could crush her with one hand. "Welcome to hell," shouted Sergeant Davis, a tall man with scars on his face. "You are here to become Special Forces soldiers. Most of you will fail. Some of you will cry for your mommy." The men laughed. Sarah said nothing. She just stood there quiet and calm. "Line up," Davis yelled. "Let's see what we're working with." 30 people stood in a row. Sarah was the only woman. She was also the smallest person there. The man next to her, Jackson, was huge. He had tattoos covering his arms and looked like he ate nails for breakfast. "Look at this," Jackson whispered to his friend Rodriguez. "They sent us a little girl. She'll be gone by lunch." Sarah heard him but didn't react. She kept looking straight ahead. Davis walked down the line looking at each person. When he got to Sarah, he stopped. "What's your name, small fry?" "Sarah Chin, sir." "And what makes you think you can be Special Forces, Chin?" "I'm here to try, sir." Davis laughed. "Try? Lady, this isn't a hobby class. This is war training. Real soldiers die if you mess up." "I understand, sir." Davis moved on, but Sarah could feel everyone staring at her. They all thought the same thing: she didn't belong here. The first test was an obstacle course from hell. Rope climbs, wall jumps, crawling under barbed wire, and carrying heavy bags for miles. Sarah watched the big men attack it with pure strength. Jackson finished first, beating his chest like King Kong. "That's how it's done," he yelled. One by one, the men completed the course. Sarah went last. She didn't try to muscle through like the others. Instead, she used smart techniques. On the rope climb, she used her legs to help pull herself up. On the wall, she found handholds the big men missed. She wasn't the fastest, but she finished clean while others stumbled and fell. "Not bad for a girl," said Rodriguez, but he didn't sound impressed. "Wait until we do real fighting," Jackson added. "Then we'll see her true colors." Sarah's heart pounded as Davis called her name for fighting practice. The men formed a circle around her, grinning like sharks. "Jackson, you're up first," Davis said. "Go easy on her." Jackson was 6 feet 2 inches and weighed 220 pounds. Sarah was 5 feet 4 inches and maybe 130 pounds. It looked like a joke. "You sure about this, little lady?" Jackson asked, flexing his muscles. "I don't want to hurt you." Sarah just nodded and got into position. "Fight," Davis yelled. Jackson came at her like a charging bull. What happened next shocked everyone. Sarah moved like water, flowing around his attack. She hit a pressure point on his arm, making it go numb. Then she swept his leg and used his own weight to throw him to the ground. In 3 seconds, Jackson was on his back with Sarah's arm around his throat. The circle went dead quiet. "Holy shit," someone whispered. Jackson tapped out, gasping for air. Sarah let him go and helped him stand up. "Next," Davis called, his voice different now. One by one, Sarah fought the other men. Each fight ended the same way, quickly and with her standing over them. But she wasn't mean about it. She helped each man up and asked if they were okay. The men stopped laughing. They started whispering instead. Where did she learn that? That wasn't normal fighting. "She moves like a professional killer." Sarah heard them talking but said nothing. She just went back to her bunk and cleaned her gear like nothing happened. The shooting test was next. They used M4 rifles to hit targets at different distances. The men were confident again. Surely size and strength mattered with guns. Sarah took the last position on the firing line. When the order came to shoot, she dropped into position like she'd done it 1,000 times. The rifles cracked like thunder. Brass shells flew everywhere. Men grunted and cursed as they tried to hit their targets. Sarah fired slowly and carefully. Each shot was perfect. She breathed in a rhythm, squeezed the trigger gently, and never missed. When they checked the targets, the men couldn't believe it. "Perfect score," announced the range officer. Sarah Chin 30 out of 30. Jackson's target looked like someone had thrown paint at it randomly. Sarah's target had all 30 holes in a tight group right in the center. "That's impossible," Martinez said, staring at the target. "Nobody shoots that good." "Where did you learn to shoot?" asked the range officer. "My dad taught me when I was little," Sarah said quietly. It was partly true. Her father had given her first lessons. But he hadn't taught her to put 3 bullets through the same hole at 400 yards in windy conditions. That was different training altogether. Every day, Sarah got better while others struggled. She knew more about tactics than people who had been soldiers for years. She could navigate in the dark without a compass. She knew which plants were safe to eat and how to start a fire in the rain. But the strangest thing was how calm she stayed. When other people panicked during stress tests, Sarah never even raised her voice. When they screamed during night training exercises, she moved through the darkness like a ghost. The men started to wonder who she really was. "I'm telling you," Jackson said one night in the barracks, "she's not normal. Normal people don't fight like that." "Maybe she's a cop," suggested Martinez. "Cops don't know military tactics like that," Rodriguez argued. "She's something else." Sarah lay on her bunk, pretending to sleep. She could hear every word. Part of her wanted to tell them the truth. But the truth was too dark, too painful. She had come here to forget who she used to be. The temperature hit 95 degrees on the day they learned combat medicine. They were practicing how to treat gunshot wounds and save lives under pressure. Sarah was showing another recruit how to stop bleeding when Sergeant Davis noticed something. "Chin, roll up your sleeves. You're getting blood on your uniform." Sarah's heart stopped. She had been so careful for weeks to keep her arms covered. "It's okay, sir. Just a little?" "I'm not asking. Roll up your sleeves. Now." Sarah's hands shook as she pushed up her left sleeve. There on her forearm was a small black tattoo. It showed an eagle holding lightning bolts. Below it were numbers and one word in Latin, mortem. Davis stared at the tattoo. His face went white as a sheet. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. The other recruits crowded around, trying to see what had scared their tough instructor. "What's wrong?" Jackson asked. Davis was already grabbing his radio. "Base, this is Training Ground Alpha. I need General Harrison here right now. Emergency priority." "It's just a tattoo," Martinez said, confused. Davis ignored him. His eyes were locked on Sarah. "Where did you get that ink?" Sarah felt like she was drowning. For 3 weeks she had hidden her past. Now it was all falling apart. I can't talk about it," she whispered. "Can't? Or won't?" Before Sarah could answer, helicopters appeared in the sky. 2 black military choppers landed in clouds of dust. From the first one stepped a man in a crisp uniform covered with medals. General Harrison was a legend. He was tall with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. When he walked across the field, everyone stood at attention. "Everyone move back," Harrison ordered. "I need to speak with this recruit alone." The group moved away, but they kept staring. Something big was happening. Harrison walked up to Sarah. His eyes went straight to her tattoo. "How long has it been, Operative Chin?" The word operative hit like a bomb. Sarah straightened up, her military training taking over. 18 months, sir. Since the mission in Afghanistan. "The one where you took out the target from 800 meters? In a sandstorm?" "Yes, sir." Harrison nodded slowly. "I heard about that shot. They said it was impossible. Wrong weather, moving target, bad angle." He studied her face. "They also said the shooter disappeared afterward." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "I needed time, sir. After what happened to my team. The bomb that killed Alpha Team. You were the only one who lived." "Yes, sir." The general's face softened. "And now you're here, pretending to be a new recruit." "I wanted to start over, sir. I wanted to remember how to be a soldier instead of just a killer." Harrison was quiet for a long moment. He understood what she meant. The eagle tattoo was only given to members of a secret unit that didn't officially exist. Soldiers who had completed missions so classified that even their names were erased from records. The word mortem meant she had killed more enemies than most people could imagine. "Our records say you died in that explosion," Harrison said finally. "Sometimes it felt like I did, sir." He looked toward the group of recruits watching from far away. "They don't know who you are." "No, sir. I wanted to keep it that way. That's not possible now. Word will spread. Questions will be asked." Sarah's shoulders dropped. "I understand, sir. I'll quit and go home." "Like hell you will." Harrison's voice was sharp. "You think I'm going to let one of my best operatives disappear? Not a chance." He turned toward the watching recruits. "Everyone get over here. Now." The men jogged over, forming a line. Their eyes kept moving between Harrison and Sarah, trying to understand what was happening. "Listen up," Harrison began. "You've been training with someone special and you didn't even know it. This woman has served her country in ways that would give you nightmares. She's killed enemies in conditions that would break most men. She survived combat that killed her entire team. Jackson's mouth fell open. Rodriguez took a step backward. That tattoo on her arm marks her as one of the most elite soldiers in our military. Less than 20 people are authorized to wear it. She's forgotten more about warfare than any of you will ever learn. The general's eyes swept the group. And she's been holding back this whole time. Everything you've seen, the perfect shooting, the fighting skills, the tactical knowledge, that's her operating at maybe 10% of her real ability. He turned back to Sarah. I'm officially bringing you back to active duty. Your cover is blown anyway. But I'm giving you a choice: return to special operations, or stay here and train the next generation. Sarah was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was strong. I want to stay and train them, sir. If they'll have me. Harrison smiled. Good choice. Sergeant Davis. Yes, sir. Sarah Chin is no longer a recruit. She's now Assistant Instructor Chin. Her orders carry the same weight as yours. Understood, sir. The general started to leave but stopped. Gentlemen, I suggest you listen to everything this woman teaches you. Your lives might depend on it someday. The truth comes out. After the helicopters left, the training ground was silent. The recruits stood around Sarah, seeing her with completely new eyes. The quiet woman they had made fun of was actually a professional warrior. So, Jackson said finally. What happens now? Sarah looked at each of them. When she spoke, her voice had new authority. Now your real training begins. Everything up to this point was just preparation. If you want to survive in combat, you need to learn to think like your enemy and strike without warning. She rolled her sleeves back down, covering the tattoo that had changed everything. First lesson: never judge anyone by their appearance. Your enemy won't look dangerous. They might be smaller, quieter, or seem weaker than you. That's when they're most deadly. Rodriguez raised his hand. Ma'am, can I ask, how many missions have you completed? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Enough to know that every one of you has the potential to save lives or take them. My job now is to make sure you can do both when you need to. Why are you helping us? Martinez asked. Sarah's face grew serious. Because somewhere out there, enemy soldiers are training just as hard to kill you. My job is to make sure you're better than they are when that day comes. Sarah stood on the same field where everything had changed. The recruits who had once mocked her were now some of the best soldiers she had ever seen. Jackson could hit targets at distances he never dreamed possible. Rodriguez had learned to move through enemy territory like a shadow. Martinez could treat battle wounds that would have killed people before. They still called her ma'am, but now it was with real respect. She had pushed them harder than they thought possible, and they had risen to meet every challenge. Ma'am, Jackson approached her after evening training. I owe you an apology. The way we treated you when you first got here. Sarah shook her head. You reacted based on what you saw. That's natural. But remember how it felt to be completely wrong about someone? In combat, that kind of mistake gets people killed. Jackson nodded. I'll never forget it. As he walked away, Sarah remained on the field. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear the sounds of other training units practicing night exercises. She had spent 18 months running from her past, trying to find some version of herself that existed before the killing started. But maybe running wasn't the answer. Maybe the way forward was to take everything she had learned in the darkness and use it to prepare others for the light. Her phone buzzed with a text from General Harrison. Proud of you, Chin. Your team would be proud too. She looked down at her covered tattoo, feeling the weight of memory and purpose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new students to train, new lives to prepare for the harsh realities of war. But for the first time in 18 months, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged. The quiet recruit who had endured mockery was gone. In her place stood Instructor Chin, a teacher, a warrior, and a guardian who would make sure the next generation was ready for whatever darkness awaited them. The transformation was complete, and Sarah Chin was finally home.